New Thought Media Network proudly presents Lindsay Leimbach, Practicing Infinite Possibilities, Fridays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And now, here's Lindsay.
Hey, happy Friday. It's Fun Friday. PIP, Practicing Infinite Possibilities. We're here today and we're going to take a deeper dive in the power of good habits. How do we create, good habits? So let me ask you, how has your week gone? Have you been thinking about some of the ideas we had last week? Go ahead and put in, if you're here, in your comments. I want to say hi and shout out to you wherever you are, Florida, Europe, California. I'm happy that you're all here. So, I've been talking about being in the flow, and I want to step back into being in the flow in a lot of the other series that I've done. And that when you are creating this infinite space of infinite possibilities, sometimes things happen and you get that resistance and you're like, no, I don't want to do that today. I don't think that's a good idea. And we take that breath and we get ourselves into that flow. And in that flow, we allow ourselves to let go of that fear, right? And we can observe, what is that resistance? Where is that coming from? And so I just wanted to tell you a little bit of a story that I had that this week. My mom-in-law she is thinking about getting into assisted living. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, I had some resistance. Personally, I had some resistance for it. She's just so dynamic. She's 86. She's a go-getter, And I'm like, oh. And then they were thinking about getting her into a neighborhood. I was like, I don't really know that well. It's kind of far away from me. I want to see her. So I had all this resistance. I had that fear. You can kind of feel it when it hits you. And you have to take a breath. And that's what Infinite PIP's about, practicing infinite possibilities. Saying, your resistant is one possibility, but what you think about, you bring about. So we want to be able to say, okay, that is one possibility. But if there's infinite, if there's God's mind, if there's universal mind, there's so much more. And you have to open up yourself and put yourself in the relaxed state so you can observe it. And so we said, okay, Lindsay, so for Valentine's Day, my husband asked, would you go with my mom to the assisted living center or place that she's thinking about living and have Valentine's Day with her in this new place to check it out? I'm like, I think that actually is the definition of love, because I don't think that love is about necessarily romance. And I thought, to be with my mother-in-law and to share this experience and allow myself to go into the infinite possibilities instead of feeling that resistance. I'm like, big breath in, hold, release, center myself, right? And I say, okay. So we picked her up on Valentine's Day and we drove on over and we got closer to the place. And I really didn't understand what street it was on. It was on the street I've never heard of. And we drove by our very favorite Chinese restaurant. And then this incredible bakery. And then when we got closer, I was like, oh my gosh, this was right down from the Jewish deli. And then it dawned on me, this location is perfect. Just because I didn't understand where it was on the map, when I got there and I released the resistance, I started to realize, wow, I can come visit her and we can actually walk to our favorite Chinese restaurant that we could, just 1 mile away is our favorite Jewish deli. I was like, not only that, it is less than a half a mile away from the hospital. Not that she would need the hospital, I'm not putting that in the universe, but man, that brings down the fear, right? That brings down the fear. So it's so much fun is when you allow space and not fear to see what's going on. And that's what PIP's about. Practicing infinite possibilities. You understand that it's natural to be a human being and you want to survive, and you have this mechanism of fear that pops up. That's part of being a human being. But you don't have to claim that as your identity or as your outcome. It's just a thought, it's just a feeling. And so when you can take that breath and you start looking around and you start seeing the infinite possibilities, the small miracles. That's what I was calling about. I mean, have you seen these small miracles? To me, it was like, this is a small miracle. I cannot believe what a terrific location this is for her. It might not be a great location for me, but it's a terrific location for her. And I was like, got it, universe. Let go of the fear and just keep going in the flow and seeing the possibilities. Anyway, shout out to my dad and mom. I know that you guys are here. I thank you for writing that and in my comments so I could see you. I really appreciate you being here. So let's go back into the whole concept of habits. Do you guys have some habits that you wish you didn't have? Do you have some habits that are good habits? And you think, well, maybe I don't even have that many habits. The truth is, you have habits all day long. All day long, you're in habits. Just think about when you wake up in the morning. When you wake up and it's the day and you think, okay, I got to get up and go to the ladies' room, brush my teeth, get my cup of coffee. These are all programmed habits that are giving you rewards. And that's how habits come. Is there actually a way of giving you a gratification, immediate reward? So you say, are you sure, Lindsay? Even my bad habits? Well, the answer is yes. So let's take a look at that. Here we go. How about this? Cutting myself. I think that's so funny. But anyway, this is really how a habit is made. Good or bad. Good or bad habit. Okay. So you have the cue, which is the trigger. Something happens. It's morning. You can see my hands underneath there. Look at it. So there, I'm on cue. You see that? I'm pointing right up to the cue. So a cue sends triggers to your brain to set off a specific behavior, an alarm, maybe in your bedroom, or the buzzing of your phone, or maybe the cue is that you have bad breath, and so you're going to brush your teeth. Now, let's say a stressful moment. That could be a cue. Studying for exams, that could be a cue. Looking down and seeing someone that you don't want to talk to on the phone, that could be a cue. All different things happen that are cues. Then you go into the craving. So when you have this cue, then you have a feeling that arises. Now, if the cue is something stressful and the feeling is stressful, then what you want to do is try to negate the stress and calm yourself down, because the body doesn't want to have stress. The body wants to have pleasure. And when you're not thinking about it, so the cue could be a stressful day, the craving could be, okay, I'm stressed, so I want to have pleasure, so I'm going to go to the refrigerator and get myself some popcorn. If you put popcorn in your refrigerator, I don't think so. My popcorn's above my refrigerator. So the craving is that you want to relieve that stress, and then your response is that you go and eat a piece of chocolate, or you go make popcorn or something like that. And then the reward is the dopamine, the satisfaction from eating. So your cue was stress, and your reward is something immediate gratification. And when you do that over and over again, it becomes a habit. Now, let's say my cue, and I'm going to take this down real quick so you can see me again. Okay, my cue is this water bottle. You see it? And it's a water bottle. It says life is good, and it has all the petals have fun and love and humor. So this is my cue. So I put it and I fill it up with water, and when I see it, then you go into the craving. The craving is that I want to do well and drink more water. So then I go into the response because I see the cue. It makes me feel good that I'm going to drink my water. This is a goal I have, to drink more water. And then my reward is dopamine, like, hey, I'm drinking my water. And then this becomes a habit every time I see this. So I've set up a positive habit, right? Let's do something as simple as biting your fingernails. And I know that hopefully many of us don't do that, but we've seen people over, sitting there biting their fingernails. Okay, so the cue is something stressful happens, even if it's in the subconscious mind, something in which you is throwing you off. And the craving is to get rid of that feeling. So you have taught yourself, as that when you bite your fingernails and you go into this habit, it actually calms you down. So when it's calming you down, then the reward is calm. Now, after you bite your fingernails and you look at it, you're like, oh God, I don't like my fingernails. So you're like, why do I do it? Because of the immediate gratification of biting it and calming you down in that moment. And you're not aware of it, but that's what you're doing. You're trying to activate a dopamine feeling. So, even to the extent of, let's say, smoking. Now, smoking can be also very biological, but the cue is maybe a song comes on. You're like, oh my God, this is the best song. Or you reach for a Diet Coke, because a long time ago, I used to smoke cigarettes and I loved my Diet Coke with my cigarettes. So when I had a Diet Coke, I thought, oh, I should have a cigarette. So what happens is my cue, my trigger was my Diet Coke, or the music was the cue, or maybe I was stressed. That could be another cue for smoking. And my craving was to get either release my stress by the soothing of smoking, or to actually feel like I'm about to party, be with my friends by the song. So releasing more dopamine by smoking, it's triggering that happy feeling. Then I execute, I do the smoking, and the reward is that I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go, or I'm calmer. And it just keeps cycling and cycling. It's how the brain works. Don't get upset that it happens. We all do it. We all do it. So what's so wonderful about understanding our mind and understanding our consciousness is that we don't have to go and live on automatic pilot. We do not have to live by our habits. We can actually override a habit. We have a higher consciousness. We have our prefrontal cortex. We have our heart-centered feeling. We have empathy and compassion. We can have a feeling and not necessarily act on it. And that is our power. That is our power. It is so incredibly strong and wonderful when you have the absolute, I can't get it out. Wayne, I can't get it out. Absolute choice. Absolute choice. Hey, I just want to throw this up. Look what Rain were. Nice to be smiled at. Hey, Wayne, it is always nice to be smiling at you, knowing you're up in Canada and with me. And really believe Wayne and my parents, they show up to PIP live, and I really appreciate it. And they show up because they know that they want to keep activating that higher consciousness, that ability to have choice, not to be on automatic pilot, to be able to observe the things that aren't working for them. If you're biting your nails, yes, it makes you feel good in the moment, but in the long run, not so much. Right? Smoking, yes, it might make you feel good in the moment. In the long run, not so much. And the same with drinking too much or alcohol or overeating. So the ability to observe what you're doing, The ability to remind yourself that you're connected to a higher consciousness. You don't have to be in this primitive way of acting, this learned behavior that you might have had many, many years ago. You learned as children, or you learned whatever with your peer group in middle school or in high school. It might have served you then, but it doesn't serve you now. My Uncle Telly on Facebook puts up some of the greatest pictures, and I wanted to show you guys this picture he put up. Let's see if I can find it. Hey, there it is. Here it is. Check out this picture. Is that so cool? So I wanted to put up, let me look this way. Look at that. That is an old tree that has now died. And inside of it, a new tree. Do you see that? A new tree is growing and nurturing itself. And I just love that because I saw it today on Facebook from my uncle. And I thought, that is what we're talking about. What we're talking about is being able to see what doesn't serve us anymore. It might have served us when we were younger. It really might have. It might have been a way of survival. There are habits that you have to learn when you're young to get through whatever you're in, the neighborhood you're in, the family you're in, the interaction with your parents, with your community, whatever it is. But when you become an adult, you cannot have those same habits as you had as a child. You're a new, higher consciousness. You're at a higher level. So you need to allow what doesn't serve you. Let's look at it one more time. What doesn't serve you in this tree. And you need to allow and choose what does serve you and allow the higher consciousness to grow. It's not a judgment that the old tree was wrong. I really want to get past that. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe I do this. And what they're doing is they're putting in the system of judgment like they're wrong. No, maybe it really did work for you. And maybe it didn't work for you, but it's all you knew. Let go of that judgment. Because when you have that heavy judgment, you end up putting that stress reaction into your mind. And when you put that stress reaction in your mind, you start closing off that ability to be at the higher consciousness and allowing love and freedom and generosity and empathy and compassion all to flow to yourself and to others. So you don't want to shut that down with that negative thinking. And that's actually part of the habit that some of us have is negative thinking. You say, Lindsay, how can a habit be negative thinking if you say that it is releasing dopamine and that's why you do it? Because you might have learned that if you belittle yourself, you motivate yourself. You think if you get tough on yourself, you'll motivate yourself. And that feeling of that's how I have to motivate or improve myself by ripping myself apart is a belief that you have. And therefore it's motivating. Therefore it's actually a kind of warped positive way of trying to better yourself. But it doesn't work. So that's the tree that we got to let go, that judgment mind. And a lot of times if we do have that negative thinking that to motivate ourselves, it's because we learned it in childhood. Maybe our parents were very judgmental to ourselves. Or for me, being dyslexic and going to school and not doing well and really feeling bad that I wasn't good enough, and if I was only better, and I was trying how to motivate myself to be better, and that feeling of not being enough. So we got to let that go, and realizing the feeling of not being enough does not motivate and cultivate that new higher level. So let's take it. This PIP, we're talking about making the power of a good habit. So I'm going to jump in a little bit on what James Clear, getting my book out to make sure you see it. Great book, James Clear, about atomic habits. Okay. And he has 4 laws, and I want you guys to see them because they're really good. Okay. So if we're going to make a good habit, then what we want to do is pick a good habit and make it obvious. Make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Okay. If we want to we're going to go into this deeper. So we're going to talk about also how to release bad habits next week. But I just want to say this. When you identify a bad habit, you want to make it invisible, meaning that the cue is invisible as much as possible. The cue that triggers you is invisible, right? And then you want to make it unattractive. You want to make it difficult, and you want to make it unsatisfying. Now we're going to circle back to bad habits. Look, here I am at the top. You see me peeking over? We're going to circle back to bad habits next week and really go on there on how to shift them with our belief systems and doing these techniques. But this week, we're going to talk about making a good habit. So if we go back to my water bottle, right? Think about it. I want to drink more water. Okay, so look at my beautiful water bottle right here. I have, once again, I've made it obvious. I fill my water bottle up and I put it next to me. I make it attractive. This is a very attractive thing. It says, life is good and compassion and authenticity and gratitude. It says all this. It makes me smile when I look at it. It's easy access. I can grab it and I keep it filled and drink it. And it is absolutely satisfying. It makes me feel really, really good. It makes me feel really good. Now, when people say, well, give me another example, Lindsay, on how we can do this. Let's say that you wanted to, I'm sorry that this is so small for you to see, but you wanted to do the full journaling. Let's see, I guess I can't really make it bigger for you guys to see it. So you want to make it obvious. So you want to be able to have a journal. Here I am. Number one, make it obvious. A journal right next to your bed, right? And make it attractive. You don't have to, you can have a prompt. You can have it so it's just, the pen is there. It's just really easy to pick it up. And then the next thing is make it easy. We're not talking about you have to write a journal and write 2 pages. Let's just say you make it as easy as saying, listen, I'm going to write 2 sentences. I'm going to write 2 sentences. Because if you make it difficult, you won't want to do it. Now, you might write more than 2 sentences, but you realize you achieved your habit, the beginning of your new habit, slowly. And I have a great thing for that. And then you feel satisfying. You can thank yourself, really acknowledge it. We were talking about this yesterday in a women's group that I was in, and people were talking about, well, how can I actually give myself the dopamine once I achieve practicing? Because we're practicing infinite possibilities. We're always practicing this new habit. And we said, you know what? One of my girlfriends has a calendar. And when she walks in the AM, she gives herself a little check. And when she walks in the PM, she gives her little self a check. And if she does something else like yoga, she gives herself a check. And so on her calendar, she has these checks going on. And just looking at her own progress just means so much to her. So much to her. Here. I wonder what Wayne said. White wizard. And you know what? We're all the wizard. The wizard, the power, the magic of the brain that we have, the magic of being able to observe ourselves and set up things that work. Things that work. I'm going to go back to, I want to show you a different wonderful picture that I got off of Facebook that really also is so important when we're understanding how do we set up habits. You see the stairs on one side, you see how close they are, how little they are, how easy they are. Where the other one, they're going up to the same goal, up into the sky, but they made the steps. I'll go on this side. They made these steps so much harder. Here I am. So much bigger. And this is kind of the problem that a lot of times we have. We say, okay, I want to get to a goal. I want to set up new habits to get to that goal. And then you make the stepping stone so big that it's not easy. Remember, one of the laws is it for it to be easy. So you want to have little increments of what's going on, little increments, little stepping stones, because you want to have that reinforcement of that dopamine coming through like, hey, I did it. Hey, I did it. You are your own best friend. You are your own teacher. And when I say you, I mean your higher consciousness connected to the universe of God. You have all that power inside of you, and it's about you utilizing it. Utilizing and believe you can utilize it by setting up little increments of easy things that get you to where you want to go. The goal is not the well, how did I say? Oh, we said it yesterday. I forgot. It's the journey, not the destination. We're setting up the system, the journey. It's not about me, just drinking water and being healthier. It's about me feeling like I'm a healthy person, and I'm setting up systems that are easy for me to achieve this, but lifelong systems. I'm not going to just do my more water drinking for 1 week and say I'm done. I want to make it into a habit that is incorporated inside of me, that I feel good, and that allows me to stay centered. So if you remember in the beginning, we were talking about how I had that resistance about my mom going to, to assistant living. And I could feel the fear come in. One of my new habits is allowing myself to feel fear. It's okay that I was fearful in a situation or resistant in a situation. That's fine. The habit is now to be able to recognize it, to observe it, not to judge it and say, I'm trying to tell myself something. What am I telling myself? And then I can move through it. And that's mindfulness. That's why I'm a mindfulness coach. It is just so magnificent when you're able to observe how you're feeling and what you're doing. Hey, Kevin's with me. It's great to have you. Hi, Kevin. So, and I know that Kevin does this too. He works on himself every day, knowing that when you come and you see things on New Thought Media Network or at PIP or other YouTube, or you read really good stuff, Ernest Holmes, or even stuff like The Atomic Habit. I got great books. Let me tell you, this is The Child in You. This is a great book. I've almost finished. This is really good. It talks about how the subconscious mind does come into the conscious way of our behaviors from our childhood. When you read things like this, you're keeping yourself in that higher observing mind, that learning and growing mind. So next week, we talked about setting up new habits. Think about what you would like to do. Make sure that you can make it easy to see, easy to execute, and that it's small, and give yourself rewards. And that's how you start putting new habits. It's a process. It's a practice. Practice doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. Practice means you have progress, because we're all on the journey. Right? It's about having the systems of the journey. I want to thank New Thought Media Network so much for allowing me to be at PIP today. It has been an honor always. And New Thought Media Network is done all on donations. So as we are all in gratitude and giving, always remember, keep supporting shows like this with New Thought Media Network. Next week, we will dive in more into understanding how do we kind of like deprogram ourselves from habits that I told you I'd like to call them yellow habits instead of negative habits or bad habits, because like that tree, they might have served us when we're young. So let's not judge them as bad. Let's just say that it's time to grow out of them, or it's time to change them. Let's not put a resistance on them, because when you do see yourself doing something that you don't want to do, you don't want to beat yourself up about it. You want to acknowledge it and then realize that you can rise to the higher consciousness, to the heart, mind centered, and you can observe it, and then you can make another choice. The power of choice and the power of practicing your choices will change your life. All right. I shall see you all next week. Remember, if you want to contact me, you can go to Centeredmoment at gmail.com, and I would love to hear your comments. And if you're interested in mindfulness coaching and how to actually do this work and get yourself centered, just go ahead, DM me, or email me. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I'm going now. I'm getting better at this. And I shall see you all next Friday with PIP. Bye.